Your objective for Lesson 15 is I will interpret the unknown in multiplication and division to model and solve problems. So we're going to be working with multiplication and division today, and we're going to be working with word problems, and we're going to be using letters to tell us what the unknown stands for in each equation. Okay, so our first problem says Ada buys 9 packs of highlighters with 4 in each pack. After giving 1 highlighter to each classmate, she has 17 left. How many highlighters did Ada give away? If you need to push pause and reread that again, you can do that. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself, is this a one-step problem? Is it going to take us one step to figure out the answer? The correct answer is no. This is going to take more than one step to help us figure out the answer. We're going to be using a tape diagram to model this problem. But first we need to write and solve an equation to find the total number of highlighters. And we're going to use H to represent that. So looking back at the problem, what equation can we use to represent how many highlighters we have in all? Are we going to be multiplying, dividing? What are we going to be doing? And I want you to use H for what the unknown is in your equation. So on your board, write an equation that tells us how many markers we're going to have. Don't write how many markers we're going to have total because that's what the H stands for. So push pause to write your equation. So the equation that I was looking for was 9 times 4 equals H, because we had 9 packs, which is the same thing as 9 groups, and there were 4 in each pack, which is the same thing as 4 in each group. So now we're going to use the tape diagram to model 9 times 4 equals H, and I want you to do that on your board. Draw a tape diagram to show 9 times 4 equals H, to help us figure out how many highlighters we have. Push pause to do that. So what I was looking for was this. I've got a tape diagram that has 9 sections in it. I know that this whole thing represents 9 packs, but I'm not sure how many highlighters I have in all, and that's what this H is for. I know that in one group I have 4 highlighters, so on the tape diagram I labeled this one section as 4. If you went ahead and put the number 4 in each section of your tape diagram, I am fine with that as well. So now we're going to take our equation and we're going to take our tape diagram and we're going to figure out how many highlighters we have in all. So this was a 9's fact because it was 9 times 4. So what strategy did you use to find 9 times 4? Did you just know it already? Did you break apart your 9 into 5 fours and 4 fours? Did you use what we learned a few lessons back where you could use your tens? Instead of saying 9 times 4, you said 10 times 4, and then you took a 4 away from that? Any of those strategies would have worked well in this equation. So the value of H is 36 because we know that 9 times 4 is 36. So how many highlighters did Ada have to begin with? She had 36 highlighters. So now is our problem complete? Does that answer the question, how many highlighters did Ada give away? Did she give away 36 highlighters? No, she did not give away 36 highlighters because in the question or in the problem it still said after giving 1 highlighter to each classmate she had 17 left over. So now we've got to go on to our next step of the problem. So we're going to solve the second step. Right here you see the first step that we took to figure out how many highlighters that we had in all. Now we're going to write another equation to help us find how many highlighters she gave away. And right over here it says that we're going to use the letter G to represent how many highlighters she gave away. So we're trying to find out what is the value of G. So you've got to think, what equation are we going to use now to help us figure out how many she gave away? We know that she has 36 highlighters in all, and we know that after she gave one to each one of her classmates that she had 17 left. So what equation do we need to do to figure out how many she actually gave away? I want you to write that equation on your board and make sure you use the letter G to represent the unknown, which is how many she gave away. So push pause to write your equation on your board. So the equation I was looking for was 36 minus 17 is equal to G. Because if we have 36 altogether and we have 17 left, we can subtract those two to see how many she gave away in the beginning. So G was equal to 19. So that answers our questions for how many she gave away. So Ada gave away 19 markers. So from that, can we tell how many classmates Ada has? If it said in the problem after giving one highlighter to each classmate, she has 17 left. So how many did she give away? She gave away 19 highlighters. So that tells me right there that she has 19 classmates in her class. Okay, clear off your board so we can work on problem 2. Problem 2 says, Eliza finds a bag of 72 marbles and runs to share them with 8 of her friends. She's so excited that she drops the bag and loses 18 marbles. How many marbles will Eliza and each of her friends get? My first question for this problem is how many units, or another word for units is how many groups are going to be in our model whenever we draw to model this problem. If you need to go back and reread this problem, do that, but I'm wanting to know how many groups or units are we going to have for this problem. Well, I look and it says Eliza finds a bag and she's going to share them with 8 of her friends. So you got to think, Eliza and her 8 friends are going to get marbles. It's not just 8 of her friends, it also includes Eliza. So that tells me right there that I'm going to have 9 units or that I'm going to have 9 groups. What part of the problem tells you that the model needs 9 units? Well, I just read that. How many marbles will Eliza and each of her friends get? So that tells me right there that it's not just her friends getting the marbles, that it's also Eliza getting the marbles. So keep this in mind when we're working on this problem, that there's not just 8 groups, there are 9 groups. Okay, what should we do first? Read back over that to figure that out. Just pause if you need to. So we've got to write an equation to solve for the first unknown, meaning this is going to be our first step, and we're going to use the letter M to represent the number of marbles Eliza has. So we know that she has 72 marbles, and we know that she's sharing them with herself and 8 friends, so that's going to be 72 divided into 9 people. But the second sentence of the problem says that she dropped the bag and lost 18 marbles. So she's not really taking 17 marbles and sharing them with herself and 8 friends because she's dropped 18. So we're not going to be taking 72 and 8 and putting that in an equation, or 72 and 9 because it's her and 8 friends. We're not going to be using 72 and 9 in our first equation because she's not going to have 72 marbles to share. So we've got to figure out how many marbles is she going to have to share with herself and 8 friends. So what equation can we write to figure out how many marbles she has after she dropped some? Make sure that you use the letter M in your equation to stand for how many marbles she has left. So I want you to write that equation on your board. Just pause to do it. So the equation I was looking for was 72 take away 18 is equal to M. But she had 72 marbles. She dropped 18 and lost them. And that's going to tell us how many she has left to share with her friends and herself. So I'm looking for what M is equal to. So I want you to figure that out, and I want you to write that on your board. So when we have 72 minus 18, we get that M is equal to 54. So now we know that she has 54 marbles left over. So we've got 54 marbles, and we've got that she's going to share them with 9 people, and that is including herself. So what equation do I write with that? I've got 54 marbles total, and those 54 marbles are being shared with 9 people total. So what equation can we use to help us solve that problem? I want you to write that equation on your board. Push pause to do that. So the equation I was looking for was 54 divided by 9. I'm going to put my division symbol up here. So if I'm doing 54 divided by 9, I'm going to draw a tape diagram to show this. You got to think, how many groups am I going to have on my tape diagram? Since there are 9 people, there's going to be 9 groups on my tape diagram. And I know that I have 54 marbles total, so I've just got to figure out how many marbles is each person going to get. So I want you to work on drawing that tape diagram on your board to figure out the answer to this equation. Push pause to do that. So when we draw a tape diagram, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people right here, which stands for Eliza and her friends. And I know that there are 54 marbles total. But right here, I don't know how many marbles each person got. But after you finished drawing your tape diagram, you should have figured out how many each person got. So whenever you finished your tape diagram, you should have gotten that each person got 6 marbles. So 54 divided by 9 was equal to 6. So answer this question, how many marbles will Eliza and each of her friends get? They're each going to get 6 marbles. Okay, I want you to go ahead and get out your problem set and have that ready so we can work on it. Push pause if you need to. Okay, this problem set is just going to be a bunch of word problems where we're working through it and using drawings and using letters to solve it. So for number 1, it says Miss Parson gives each of her grandchildren $9. She gave a total of $36. How many grandchildren does Miss Parson have? Write an equation and use a letter to represent the unknown. Well, you know me, and we always use some type of drawing whenever we're solving our problems as well. So you got to ask yourself, what am I going to do to solve this? Am I going to multiply? Am I going to divide? What am I going to be doing first? So they told us that she has 9 children, and they told us that there was a total. And we've looked at this word right here before, each. When you see this in a problem, we know that we're going to be dividing. So I've got $36 and I've got $9 that each grandchild got, but we don't know how many grandchildren. So using a tape diagram, we're going to figure that out. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to draw a tape diagram that models this problem. Push pause to do that. So whenever we use a tape diagram to model this problem, I was looking for this tape diagram. Yours may not have these dotted lines. Yours may have ended up with how many grandchildren she actually had. But we knew that first one grandchild had $9. So if we kept making groups of 9, we would have figured out how many grandchildren she had. And for this one, since the question said how many grandchildren, we're going to use the letter G to figure out how many grandchildren she actually has. So in your tape diagram, you probably finished it by saying this was 9, now we have 18, then we've got 27, and then when we add another group of 9, we've got 36. So altogether, she's going to have 4 grandchildren. So we need to write an equation, and we're going to use a letter to represent the unknown, and we just said that the letter is going to represent grandchildren, so we're going to use the letter G. So the equation that we're looking for was 36 divided by 9 equals G, and then we just solved for what G stood for on the tape diagram by seeing how many sections the tape diagram had. So we know from this one that G was equal to 4, so that tells us that she has 4 grandchildren. So now I want you to write the answer to this question in a sentence. So the question said, how many grandchildren does Miss Parson have? So we figured out that she has 4, but I want you to answer that in a sentence. Push pause to do that. So your sentence should have said, Miss Parson has 4 grandchildren. Okay, moving on to number 2. Shiva pours 27 liters of water equally into 9 containers. How many liters of water are in each container? Well, this one right here, we know the total amount of liters, and we know how many containers. So are we multiplying or are we dividing? We are multiplying because they gave us the total. And you also see this key word right here that says each. And when we see that, we are thinking of division. So once again, I want you to draw a tape diagram that represents this problem. And I also want you to go ahead and write an equation for this problem using a letter for the unknown. And when we look at the question, it says how many liters. So the letter that we're going to use when we write an equation is going to be the letter L. So you have 2 things that you're doing. Draw a tape diagram to represent this problem, and then use the letter L in your equation when you write it. Push pause to do this. So the tape diagram, we know that there are 9 containers. So on our tape diagram, we have 9 sections, and we labeled it down here that there were 9 containers. And then we know that there are 27 liters total, but we did not know how many liters each container had. So in this tape diagram, it's blank. But if you finished your tape diagram and you figured out how many was in each, that is fine with me as well. The equation I was looking for was 27 divided by 9. They put N on theirs, but I told you to use L, so I was looking for 27 divided by 9 is actually equal to L. And then we need to solve for what L is. And if you finished your tape diagram, you figured out that L was actually equal to 3. So in each container, there are 3 liters. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to answer the question in a sentence for how many liters of water are in each container. So go ahead and write that sentence on your paper and push pause if you need to do that. So the sentence I was looking for, there are 3 liters in each container. Number 3, Derek cuts 7 pieces of wire. Each piece is 9 meters long. What is the total length of 7 pieces? So they told us how many pieces of wire, and they told us how long each piece of wire was. We're looking for the total length. So notice right here, that is the total length that we're looking for. So you've got to ask yourself, are we multiplying or are we dividing in this equation? Okay, we know that there are 7 pieces of wire, and we know that there are 9 meters in each piece, so we are multiplying because we know how many groups and how many in each group. So whenever you draw your tape diagram, make sure you show that, and whenever you write an equation that goes with your tape diagram, I want you to use the letter M because it's asking for the length, and we know from this sentence right here that it's 9 meters long, so we're going to be using meters in the total length. That's why we're going to use the letter M in our equation. So you're going to draw a tape diagram that represents this problem, and you're going to write an equation using the letter M to stand for the unknown. So I want you to push pause to do that. The equation or the tape diagram I was looking for looked like this. We knew that there were 7 pieces, and we knew that each piece was 9 meters. Down here for our question mark, if you wanted to include this as your question mark, we did not know how many meters there were total. If you went ahead and put your dots or your numbers in each section of your tape diagram, that's fine with me. Since we already knew that it was 9 meters, I was really looking for 9 to be in each one of these sections instead of 9 dots. And in the equation, I was looking for 7 times 9 is equal to m. And then we need to figure out what does m equal. If you haven't figured that out, push pause to do that. So m is equal to 63 because 7 times 9 is 63. So that tells us the total length of all pieces of wire. So I want you to go ahead and write the answer to that question in a sentence. And I want you to push pause to do that. So the 7 pieces are 63 meters long, or the total length of the 7 pieces is 63 meters. As long as your sentence had 63 meters long in it, then you're fine. Okay, turning to the next page of the problem set. Aunt Dina and Uncle Chris share the cost of a limousine ride with their 7 friends. The ride cost a total of $63. If everyone shares the cost equally, how much does each person pay? So we've got Aunt Dina and Uncle Chris, and they have 7 friends. So how many people are there all together? Because that's going to help us figure out how much does each person pay. Because there's not just 7 people, because we also have Aunt Dina and Uncle Chris. So how many people are there all together that are going to ride this ride? Okay, so I've got 7, and then I've got 2 other people, so that tells me that there's going to be 9 people in the limousine. So I've got $63 total to ride the limousine, and there are 9 people. And they're equally going to share the cost of that, so we've got to figure out how much is each person going to pay. So are we multiplying or dividing in this equation? They gave us the total, so we know that we're dividing. So we're going to be dividing 63, not divided by 7, but dividing it by 9 because that's how many people there are total. So I want you to draw a tape diagram that goes with this problem. We know how many groups are in the tape diagram because we know that there are 9 people. So we're figuring out how much is each person spending. I want you to go ahead and write an equation that goes with this, and I want you to use the letter M in the equation to stand for money because we're trying to figure out how much each person is paying. And then I also want you to answer this problem in a complete sentence. So draw your tape diagram, write your equation with the letter M, and then write the answer to the question in a complete sentence. Push pause to do that. Okay, what I was looking for was a tape diagram that had 9 sections because that 9 sections was the 7 friends plus Uncle Chris, Aunt Dina. We knew that they all paid $63 total. And in each one of these sections, if you went ahead and put 7, then that is perfectly fine because I know that 63 divided by 9 was 7. The first equation I was looking for was 63 divided by 9 is equal to m. And then you should have figured out that m was equal to 7. So to answer the question for how much does each person pay, the sentence I was looking for is each person pays $7. Moving down to number 5. Kara bought 9 packs of beads, and there are 10 beads in each pack. She always uses 30 beads to make each necklace. So how many necklaces can she make if she uses all of the beads? So ask yourself right now, is it going to take me one step to solve this problem, or is it going to take me more than one step to solve this problem? Because when I look up at the equation or the word problem, I see more than two numbers. So that may give you a hint that, hey, this is going to be more than one step. So you're going to have to figure out what step do you need to do first. And to figure that out, you need to look back at the question in the problem to see what it is you're trying to figure out. And the question says, how many necklaces can she make if she uses all of the beads? So, to begin with, you've got to figure out how many beads does she have. So I want you to draw a tape diagram and figure out how many beads does she have in all to begin with. I want you to push pause to do that. After you've drawn your tape diagram to figure out how many beads she has in all, then I want you to figure out if she's using 30 beads for one necklace, how many necklaces can she make? So in your tape diagram, circle 30 beads, and then that's one necklace. And then you need to keep circling until you have figured out how many necklaces she has total. Make sure you write your answer to the question in this problem in a complete sentence. And I want you to push pause to do all of that. So, this is what I was looking for. You circled 30 beads, 10, 20, 30. Circled 30 more beads, circled 30 more beads. So that's one necklace, and one necklace. So now I've got 3 necklaces total. So the answer to the problem was Kara can make 3 necklaces. If you wrote some type of equation, the first equation I was looking for was 9 times 10 because that gave us how many beads she had total. Moving on to the last problem of the problem set. There are 8 erasers in a set, and Damon buys 9 sets. After giving some erasers away, Damon has 35 erasers left. So how many did he give away? So I'm going to let you do this on your own. Draw a tape diagram for it. Use your equations, and then write your answer in a complete sentence. And when you are ready to check your answer, I want you to push play. So push pause to do the work on number 6. Okay, we knew that there were 8 erasers in a set and that he bought 9 sets. So this whole tape diagram shows me 9 times 8. And if you figured that out after you drew it, it is equal to 72. That is not the answer to the question because it says that he has 35 erasers left after he gave some erasers away. So you had to do 72 take away 35, which gave you 37. So the answer in a sentence was he gave away 37 erasers. Okay, you're going to take out your problem set or keep it in your binder and work on it. But you've got 2 problems here. Make sure you read them closely. And whenever you are finished with your problems and you bring them to me, make sure that you don't bring it to me unless you've got a picture and you've got an equation and you've answered these questions in a complete sentence on your paper. Once you have those 3 things done for number 1 and 2, you can come see me with your exit slip.